Okay, so the thing about the written response questions is they have one scenario, but they cover multiple units. Okay, so you're going to read the very initial part of the question, and it's going to give you a scenario. And then parts A, B, C, or D, depending on how many parts it has, it'll either be A, B, C, or A, B, C, D. All those questions will be in the same scenario, but they'll come from different units. Okay? Sometimes they put the point value beside each question. Sometimes they just say, hey, this question's worth a total of 5 marks, but then they don't tell you how much each part is worth. Just go with it. So let's start with question number 2. So a slide at a winter carnival is shown below. A child's path down the slide is given by the equation y equals negative 0.03x cubed, blah, 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 where y is the vertical height in meters and x is the horizontal distance traveled down the slide in meters. So the y is the height in meters and x is also in meters. So x is not time, it's meters. Okay, so it's vertical height and horizontal distance. So it says, at the start of the slide, how high is the person above the ground? Okay, so here is your equation. Okay, so you have a graphing calculator on your desk. So whenever you are given the equation, plug it into y1. Just go ahead and plug it in. Like, you're given the equation, let's go see what happens. Okay, so negative 0.013 x cubed, 0.19 x squared, negative 1.1x, plus 7.2. Oh, I forgot a plus sign there. Shoot. Oh, you're kidding me. Okay, what is going on with this calculator? Plus. Okay. So I'm going to make my window settings go from 0 to 10 and 0 to 10 because it's distance. It's distance and height. So I don't need any negatives. So I don't know if this is going to work or not, but that kind of shows the slide, right? Like it shows like kind of like the path of it. I'm just going to extend that x just a little bit further. I'll go to 20. So that kind of looks like the picture, right? That kind of looks like the picture of the slide. Okay. So the question is, at the start of the slide, how high is the person above the ground? Well, that is the y-intercept. So how do you find a y-intercept? Well, you pick number 1. You enter in 0, and the y-intercept is 7.2. Now, here's the thing. You could have found that answer and not plugged anything in on your calculator. The constant term is always the y-intercept. So notice it doesn't say how to find the answer. It just says, hey, what height are they to start with? So if you just put down 7.2 on your page and not showed any work at all, you'd still get full marks. If it doesn't say show me your work, then don't show your work. If it says show me your work, then show your work. If it's asking for work, it's marking your work. If it just wants an answer, it's only marking the answer. So yes, you could have gotten here just by recognizing the constant term, or you could have gotten here using your calculator. Okay, not everything's about memorization. Now look, that should feel easy to you. So when we're talking about written response, of the 3 parts, or 4 parts, depending on what they do, For sure, one of those parts should be very straightforward. Okay, the other two might be more challenging. They don't want to give anybody 0 out of 5. They want everybody to get at least 1 out of 5, preferably 3 out of 5. That's their standard is 3 out of 5. So they make sure that the questions are straightforward enough that everybody can at least start a question even if you can't finish it. Okay. Okay, part B. So at the carnival. So notice the theme here is being at a carnival. Okay, so that's the theme. You were at a carnival and you rode down a slide. You're now at a carnival and a child's hot chocolate is cooling down. The equation that models the temperature of the hot chocolate after a period of time in minutes is T equals 80.714 M. Okay, stop here. What type of equation is that? You need to know what unit you're in, right? So here, you need to know that this is a cubic. So you're like, okay, I'm in the polynomials unit. What do I know about polynomials? If you can identify what unit you're in, it will help you think about what you need to do for that question. So, what type of equation is this? What unit are you in? You've got a variable in the power position. This is an exponential equation. In class, we had that, a times b to the x. Okay, so we know the start is 80, and it's decaying because it's a number between 0 and 1. That's what we know. A child incorrectly determines that it takes 1.3 minutes for their hot chocolate to cool to a temperature of 24 degrees Celsius. The child's method is shown below. So they put 24 in for T, 80.714 M. Okay? And then they did a bunch of stuff. So what I suggest you do is now that you know that you're an exponential, and now that you know that you're solving an equation, the theory that needs to pop into your brain is this. You solve an exponential. You have two options. You either put each side to the same base. Is that possible here? Is it possible to do the same base with these decimals? No. So same base is not possible. So the other option is the two-step process. Step 1, divide by A. Step 2, convert. That's the two-step process to solve an exponential. So what did this person do? Did this child divide both sides by 80? No. They have the 24 here. What they did is they multiplied. So they did step 1 wrong. You cannot multiply the A and the B. Okay? So the question is, determine the first mistake that they made. Right there. They multiplied. That was their first mistake. Now, the reason why it says first mistake instead of second mistake or third mistake is because once they've made a mistake, the rest doesn't matter. It's crap, right? You've screwed up. I don't care what the rest of it is. It's wrong. And then it says provide the correct algebraic solution. So it wants the algebra. So the algebra is divide both sides by A, convert to a log. So we're going to divide both sides by the 80. Okay, so move that 80 over to the other side. And now convert to log. So remember, this is your base. Power of is. So your base is whatever has the exponent attached. So you have got 0.714. So 0.714 to the power of m is 24 over 80. Once you get to this, you're just going to put this through MAM, right? Math alpha math. So 0.714, 24 over 80. So you get 3.57. It didn't say how to round, so I'll just do 3.6 minutes. Here's the thing. You need to know what unit you're in so that you know the process of solving. Because we have done log solving, exponent solving, rational solving. We have done those 3 types of solving. So you need to know what type of equation you have so you know what method to use. And because the question is jumping unit to unit, that's the only way you can do that. Okay. Part C. At the carnival, so again, same theme. We're still at this carnival. A skill testing question is given and must be answered correctly to win a prize. Correctly simplify and state the non-permissible values. So this is now your rationals unit, and you can see that it's a subtract. So again, think about what unit you're in, then attack the question. So this is what we practiced yesterday. Add, subtract questions are all done the same way. First thing we do is we check to see if we can factor. 3x plus 5 and x, cannot factor those. So first step is done. Second step, common denominator. So think of each denominator as its own little bracket. So I need one of each. I need a 3x plus 5, and I need an x. I need one of everything. Third step, figure out what you're missing. So we use check marks. So for the first fraction, I have the 3x plus 5. I am missing the x. So I'm going to go 2x times x. The second fraction, I have the x. I am missing the 3x plus 5. So I'm going to go 3 times 3x plus 5. Okay, so I've got 2x squared over 3x plus 5x, 9x plus 15. Okay, so if I look at the top here, do I have any like terms? Nope. So there's actually nothing to subtract. So all I'm going to do, whoops, is just write it as a single fraction. Now, notice the plus has to change to a minus because you're subtracting the whole thing. So you're going subtracting 9 and you're subtracting the 15. So that plus sign has to change to a minus sign. You're subtracting everything. And then the last step, you have to give the restrictions. So our restrictions are, so for this, hide the 3. So it looks like x plus 5. So that would be negative 5. You're timesing by 3, so you divide by 3. The next bracket is just a monomial. Monomials are just automatically 0. Okay, So just pause here. Let's say that that question was worth 3 of the 5 marks. Okay? 3 of the 5. And you got all the way down to here and you accidentally wrote plus 15 instead of minus 15, you're getting 2.5 out of 3. If this was multiple choice and one of the choices had plus 15 and another choice had minus 15, you're circling A when you should have circled B. You're getting 0 out of 1. Written response allows you guys to get marks for your effort, and it is your effort is what counts here. Remember, these two questions at the end, they're worth 25% of the mark. So even though it's only 2 questions, because they've got multiple parts, there's lots of ways that you guys can earn those marks. Okay. So again, the idea being here is that for each part of the question, you need to figure out what unit you are in so that you can figure out what methods you need to do to solve. Do you have any questions on that first one? So we're just going to do a few more together, okay? Just to kind of give you the gist of this. So I want you to go to question number 4 next, please. Now, here's the thing. I have no idea what units they will pick for the written response. I don't have a clue. Usually, you know how I've been kind of saying, hey, when you get to exponents and logs, it's going to be about 6 questions. Let's say it's only 4 exponents and logs questions instead of 6. That's because they made written response an exponents and logs. Okay, so they're going to kind of offset it the best way they can. Okay, so the owner of a restaurant records the number of delivery orders each day after 10 a.m. So we've got number of hours after 10 a.m., number of orders each hour. Okay, so the scenario here is a restaurant looking at orders. Question 8. The data models a cubic regression. Like, ooh, cubic reg. I know how to do that. At least I hope you do. Where X is the number of hours since 10 a.m., Y is number of orders received. Determine the equation, round each value to the nearest tenth. Okay, so the first column is L1, the second column is L2. Or think of it as X and Y. Okay, so let's go through those buttons. So step 1, clear your lists. So second plus 4, enter. Step 2, go to stat. Pick number 1. Make sure you've got an L1 and an L2. Okay, so under L1, you're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Under L2, we're going to put the number of orders. 8, 15, 13, 10. Now make sure you slow down on that step, right? Because if you accidentally punch 713 instead of 712, you're going to get the completely wrong equation. Okay? So all it cares about is the equation. So I don't have to do window settings. I don't have to do twinkle, twinkle, little star. I just have to get out this stupid equation. So cubic reg, hit stat, go over to calc. Cubic reg is number 6. So hit number 6, go to calculate. Okay, so we're going to take each of these numbers, A, B, C, D, plunk them into A, B, C, D, rounding to the nearest tenth. So one number after each decimal. So the answer would be 0.5x cubed minus 6.3x squared plus 21.2x minus 7.1. Okay, let's talk about rounding. if you round wrong on numeric response, you're going to get 0 out of 1. So if the answer is 2.4 and you write 2.5 or 2.3 or 2.42, like if you round wrong, you're getting 0 because they're marking what dots you color in, not what you have written down on your page. Long answer, they're going to take off half a mark from the total. So if the question's out of 5 marks, you're going to get 4.5 out of 5 if you round incorrectly. You've shown that you know what you're doing. You just have shown that you didn't know how to read the question. You missed the tenths part. You rounded to the hundredths or whatever. Okay? So again, written response, it's all about the part marks. Okay? That's part A. We have done 25, 30 regressions now at this point in the course. This should be almost autopilot for you. Okay? Okay, part B. We're still at the restaurant. So again, that's our theme. The theme is this restaurant. The restaurant offers a lunch special that includes exactly one dessert from the options of cheesecake, chocolate sundae, and apple pie. The odds against. Okay. As soon as you see odds, you're instantly thinking probability, odds, right, are little formulas. So without even reading the question, well, with reading the question, the odds against a person selecting a chocolate sundae is 5 to 2. So the first number, because it's odds against, is they don't want the sundae. They do want the sundae. Okay, so odds against, the first number is the not, the second number is the yes. The odds for, so for and in favor are the same thing. The odds for a person selecting apple pie are 9 to 19. So they do want pie. They don't want pie. Okay. The question then says, determine the probability. So the formula for probability is want over total. Now, where that total comes from is if you add these two numbers up. So determine the probability that a person selects a chocolate sundae or an apple pie. Or means add, and means times. So the probability that they want a chocolate sundae. So they want a chocolate sundae, that's 2 out of 7. They want an apple pie is 9 out of 28. So it's want over total. They want the answer as a reduced fraction. So just whip out your calculator. So 2 over 7 plus 9 over 28, math 1. So 17 over 28. Okay. So again, this question was from our probability unit, the first 2 days of it. And we talked about what probability means, want over total, odds for, odds against. So when you read a question, please just take 30 seconds and stop and go, okay, what do I know about this concept? You're going to have to switch unit, switch unit, switch unit, because each part will be from a different unit. Okay. Part C. The owner of the restaurant determines that the sound intensity during dinner is 3,000 times more intense than the sound intensity during lunch. The loudness of the sound during dinner compared to the loudness of the sound during lunch is given by that equation. Okay, stop and ask yourself, what unit are you in? You have got a letter in the power position. So again, this is another exponential equation. D is the loudness of sound during dinner, measured in decibels. Algebraically, determine the loudness of the sound. So this is exactly what we did before. The first thing you're going to do is divide both sides by the A. The second thing you're going to do is convert to logs. And then you're going to use your MAM key. Okay, do not divide by 10. Look up here. Y equals A times B to the X. I'm just going to use erasable ink here. That's the X. Oh, it's going to do that. Okay. That's the base. There's no number in front of the 10. So what number do we assume is there? 1. The A here is 1, not 10. 10 is the base. So step number 1 here is dividing both sides by 1, which pretty much has no effect. So when there's no number in front of that base, essentially step 1 is useless. On that last question I did, where am I at here? Here, we had an A value. So here I had to divide by 80 because I had an A value. So I divided both sides by 80. I had a number in front of the base. Here, I don't have a number in front of the base, so it's pointless to divide. Convert this to logs. So base power of is. And no, you don't have to write that in. Okay, I'm just doing that for the notes. So the base is 10. So 10 to the 0.1d minus 3.6 is 3,000. If you want to put 3,000 over 1, you do you. Okay, since it is base 10, you don't have to use the MAM key. If you want to, you can. So if you use the MAM key, you can go log base 10 of 3,000, like that. Or you can just use this big old log key right beside number 7. You can just go log 3,000. Either way, you get out the exact same decimal. Okay? So we've got this 3.477 equals that. Now, the rule in grade 12 is you're not allowed to round anything until the very last step. So go back to grade 8. How are you going to get D by itself? Well, you're going to add 3.6 to both sides. So whatever that is. So I just hit plus 3.6 and I get out that. So again, I'm not rounding anything. And then divide both sides by 0.1. And since this is my last step, now I can round the answer. So I've got 70.77. What did it ask for? To the nearest decibel. So that's a whole number answer. So that's 71. Okay, so question number 2 had an algebraic solving of an exponential equation. Question number 4 had an algebraic solving of an exponential equation. There's pretty good odds that one of the two is going to have an algebraic solving of an exponential equation. Here's the thing. I don't know if it's going to be a same base or if it's going to be divide by a, convert to logs. That I don't know. But I would bet dollars to donuts you're going to get a solving algebraically of an exponential equation. Okay, so that was question number 4. Now, notice both questions now. Of parts A, B, and C, 2 of them were straight up theory, like 2 parts were straight theory, 1 part was algebra. So if you suck at algebra, you can still get 3 out of 5 with the non-algebra parts, right? So even if you can't do every segment of it, that's what makes it so great, because they all parts are from different units. So if you're really good at probability, you get the probability marks, but you may screw up on this part, well, whatever, then you just lose the mark for that. Okay. Okay, this one had a part D. Okay, so there's one more part. So it says the restaurant owner, again, same theme, still in that stupid restaurant. The restaurant owner is planning 2 new menus for a special event, a lunch menu and a dinner menu. Each new menu will consist of 3 courses, and the items on these 3 menus will be created by selecting foods off of the regular menu. That is the key to this question. You're going to select items off of the regular menu. The number of food items on each menu for each course is given below. So you've got your 3 courses, you've got your regular menu, and you've got your new, so these are the new menus. Okay. And all of these items are selected from the regular menu. So they're not new items, they're selected from. So that the regular menu has 4 items for course 1. The lunch menu is only going to have 2 of them. So let's say this one was a soup, a salad, fries, and potato skins. This might only have the soup and the salad. Okay. Determine how many more possible menu options can be created for the special event dinner menu compared to the special event lunch menu. Okay. So, lunch, dinner. We are selecting. Selecting is NCR. So this is from the permutations unit. Now, it's selecting. So you remember, permutation is an arrangement. Selecting is I want you and you. So you're like, hey, I'm going to pick the soup and I'm going to pick the salad. Okay. So for course 1, course 2, course 3. So for the lunch, you've got 4 items to pick from and you're selecting 2. So 4, choose 2. For course 2, you've got 8 items to pick from. You're going to pick 4. And for course 3, you've got 5 items to pick from. You want 1. Now, when you eat off of this menu, remember it said you have to eat all 3 courses. So you're going to eat course 1 and course 2 and course 3. You're going to have a 3-course meal. And means times. So you're going to go 4, choose 2, times 8, choose 4, times 5, choose 1. And yes, this is annoying to plug in. Okay. So hit 4, hit math, go to probability, pick number 3 for NCR. So 4 choose 2, whoops, 4 choose 2, hit the over arrow, times 8 choose 4. 8, math, probability, number 3, hit the over arrow, and 5, math, choose 1. So there's 2,100 lunch menus. There's 2,100 meals you could make off of the lunch menu. So you could go there 2,100 days in a row and have a different meal every single day. It's crazy. Okay, let's do the dinner menu. So again, we're selecting off of the regular menu. So we've got 3 items we're selecting from 4. We're selecting 5 from the 8. And we're selecting 2 from the 5. And again, it's a 3-course meal. So you're eating course 1 and course 2 and course 3. Okay. So 3, 5, and 2. So 3, 5, and 2. 2240. So the question says, how many more items are possible? 140. Because this says 2100, it says 2240, so that has 140 more. Okay, now this question wasn't out of 5 marks, it was out of 7. Okay, it was a bigger question. So they gave 2 marks for this. They gave 2 marks for this. They gave 2 marks for this. And they gave 1 mark for that. Okay, so this question was out of 7. So if you feel like you've been trapped in a question for a while, it's because it's worth more marks. And it will tell you beside the question the marks. Depending on the diploma, sometimes they put beside each question how much each part is worth. Sometimes they just tell you the total for the whole question. It varies. So I wrote here 2 questions out of 10. Sometimes they'll do 1 out of 10 and 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5 and 1 out of 7. So sometimes it'll be out of 12. So every once in a while, we'll have a diploma out of 44 instead of out of 42. Like I said, I know you're getting 2 written response. I don't know. I've never seen 2 marks out of 7. I haven't seen that like 7 or 8 years. I haven't seen 2 questions worth 7 marks each. If they do 2 questions worth 7, what that means is that these in here, there'll still be 32 questions here, but they will be much easier questions. They'll be much shorter. So that way, when you're putting extra time in here, it's still going to even out. Okay. So the key with this question was the word select. If you could recognize like, oh, select, that's a combination. If you could pick up that one word, hopefully that would help you do that question. Okay, so arrange is the blanks method. Select is NCR. Okay, go to question number 6. Okay, so number 6 was from last, so like not the January exam we just had, but from the January before that. So this was from a year and a half ago. Okay, so a child was presented with the following puzzle and given the following rules. We love a good puzzle. Okay. Each bolded area contains a target number and a mathematical operation. only the numbers 1 to 4 inclusive can be used. Okay, inclusive means including 1 and 4. Exclusive would mean you cannot use 1 and 4. Okay. Numbers may not be repeated in any row or column. In each bolded region, the math operation must be performed on the numbers in any order to equal the target number. Okay. So within each row and column, you have to have the numbers 1 to 4. Okay? And numbers can't be repeated. Okay, let me hit pause on this. Okay, so let's focus on this little chunk right here. So if I can draw your attention to that one right there. So what this little area here means, so the 12 is your target number, and you have to get to that target number by multiplying all three numbers. So 4 times 1 times what would give 12? 4 times 1 times what would give 12? 3. Okay, 4 times 1 times 3 is 12. Let's look at this one. So see this little box right here is like L-shaped box. So the target number is 12 again. And this time you're going to add all the numbers. So 4 plus 1 plus 4 plus what would give 12? I think it's 3. Now, if you know those two, look what you can now do. Each row and column has to contain the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we look at our first row, this has to be a 2. Now the target number was 2, and you have to subtract. Is 4 take away 2, 2? Yes. If we look down this column, we've got a 1, 4, 3, which means that has to be a 2. Okay. If we look down this column, we've got a 2, a 1, and a 4, which means that one has to be a 3. If we look at this row, a 1, 3, 4, that means that one has to be a 2. We've got a 3, 2, and 4 in our last column, so that means that has to be a 1. In our third row, we've got 1, 2, and 4, which makes that a 3. And in our last row, we've got 1, 3, and 4, which makes that a 2. Now you can go in and check all your boxes. The target number is 2. Remember, you can subtract these in any order. Is 3 subtract 1, 2? Yep. Here, do these two numbers add to give 5? Yep. Here, do these three numbers multiply to get 4? Yep. So that's the puzzle. So that's either going to be worth 1 mark or 2 marks. Okay, now the problem with puzzles is you can't study for them. You just either have to just hope that the instructions make sense. Okay? But they're usually some sort, these are called kakuros. They like kakuros. Okay, they just do. If they put a Sudoku on there, it's going to be a straightforward little Sudoku. Okay? Or what it will be a Sudoku and they'll only want certain squares filled in. So you don't have to do the whole thing, they just want specific ones. So they do make it easier. Like I said, their goal on this is to make sure that everybody gets 1 or 2 marks out of 5. That is their goal. Okay, so they always make one part of it, usually a fairly straightforward part. Okay, part B. So part B, several children attend a day camp. They are presented with 3 different activities, and they must choose at least one activity. Okay, that is very important. Why is that one sentence important? Because that means that the outside of the circles has to be the number 0, because they all have to pick something. So we've got wall climbing, kayaking, and archery. So we've got WC for wall climbing, K is for kayaking, and A is for archery. Okay, so 3 circle Venn diagrams. Pause and ask yourself, what do I know? Well, what you know is that you start in the middle circle. So which one talks about all 3? 13. 13, pick all 3. The next square, or sorry, section, is this part right here. That number represents the and. Okay, so if we look right here, 25, pick kayaking and archery. So kayaking and archery is 25. So look up here, please. So this entire area, kayaking and archery, that is 25. You've already got 13 written, so that means that that has to be 12. Remember, you're going to subtract as you move your way out. Okay, the rest of this now, these 3 numbers up here, those are your totals for each circle. So wall climbing is a total of 63, kayaking is 51, archery is 60. Those are your totals for all the numbers in the circle. So I've used those 3. I do usually cross them out as I use them, so that way I know I've used them. Okay, so these last 2. Okay, so 21 pick wall climbing, but not archery or kayaking. So that means they only pick wall climbing. Where would that 21 go? They only pick wall climbing. That would be that. So I don't have to subtract there because they only picked wall climbing. 18, pick wall climbing and archery, but not kayaking. Okay. So wall climbing and archery. So wall climbing and archery is this area right here, but they didn't pick kayaking. So what it is, it's just this number right here. So I don't have to subtract the 13 because it's not, because they didn't pick that. So I don't have to go 18 minus 13. I'm just going to put the 18 there. And again, I'm not subtracting because of that. So when it says complete the Venn diagram, that means it wants you to finish off filling it in. Okay? So where can I go to first? Well, the total for this circle is 63. So I could go 63 minus 21 minus 18 minus 13 to get this number right here, right? Because this circle has to be 63. So that's 11. Now I can do the same for this circle. I've got 51 for the total. I'm going to minus 11, 13, and 12. So I think that's 15. And then for archery, the total is 60. I'm going to minus off the 18, the 13, and the 12. So I think that's 17. Okay, so please remember, we mentioned this in set theory, but I'll bring it up to you again. You cannot put any work on your set theory. Like you can't put any work on the Venn diagram. All of this work has to go outside the square. Okay. So the second part of the question says, state the total number at day camp. So what you're going to do is you're going to add up all the numbers that you see. So 21, 11, 15, 18, 13, 12, 17, and 0. And remember the zeros because they all had to attend something. Can someone just tell me the answer? How many? 107. So 107 is the universal set. That's how many attended day camp. Okay. So again, if this question was worth 2 marks, depending on how many numbers you got filled in correctly, you're going to get 0.5 out of 2, 1 out of 2, 1.5 out of 2. Okay. The only way they'll give you 0 is one of two things. Number one, you leave the question blank. And number two, every single thing you wrote down was wrong. Like there was nothing redeemable on your page. You were doing probability, or you were in the wrong unit, right? You were doing something so wrong, they were like, oh man, I can't even give you anything for this. They try not to do that, okay? They look and look and look for those 0.5s to give you something. Okay, so we've got a puzzle. We've got set theory. What's my next unit? At the day camp, so again, we're still talking about kids, a Wi-Fi password consists of a random arrangement. So you're thinking blanks method. And we talked about this last week. When you think about blanks method and we're thinking about letters, you always want to check for repeats. Repeated letters change the blanks method. So at the day camp, a Wi-Fi password consists of a random arrangement of all the letters in the word Camp Pippa. Emily wants to know how many different passwords can be created. She calculates it to be 4 factorial times 5 factorial equals 2,880. Emily has made a mistake. Explain why her calculation is incorrect. Okay, you are probably going to get an explain question. That strikes the fear in most grade 12ers because it's like, I don't know how to explain math. I just know how to do math. Okay, then do the math. The do is the explanation. So you're more than welcome to write a sentence. You're welcome to draw a graph. You're welcome to show how to do it actually correctly. You can do whatever you want. Explain just means show me how you know this. So if you want to explain it in words, you could say that she forgot she has repeated letters. That's the explanation. They don't mark your spelling. They don't mark your penmanship as long as they can read it. Okay. This doesn't apply to everybody in here. But you know, if you ever had that tip of your tongue feeling, like you're just like, oh, what's the word? What's the word? If you can't think of the word, try drawing it out. Try explaining it. A lot of kids, if English is not their first language, they will actually write it in their own native language, like their mother tongue, and then they bring in interpreters. So Alberta Ed will bring in a teacher from another room and say, what does this say? So kids are not penalized if they can't think of the English word. Okay? Don't try to make yourself sound fancy. She forgot about repeated letters. Okay? So that's one way you could do it. The other way you could do it is you could literally just do the question. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 letters. So that's 9 factorial over the repeats. I've got 2 A's and 4 P's. Insert your brackets and plug it in. So by showing the correct, that would be another way to explain. Up to you. So again, this question, We've had a puzzle question, we've had set theory, and now we've had permutations and combinations. So 3 different units, 3 different questions, all talking about kids. Okay. Part D. So here's the algebra. So again, usually these 2 questions, each one of them will contain an algebra piece. So 2 groups of students go kayaking. The first group went 12 kilometers in the same amount of time. The other group went 9. Okay, so they're slackers. The first group kayaked 1.5 kilometers per hour faster than the second group. The relationship between the time spent kayaking of the 2 groups is that. Don't worry about where this came from. They're just giving you the equation. Where x is the average speed. Algebraically. Okay, so hopefully you look at this and you realize you're in the rationals unit and you realize that you're solving an equation. So when we did this, the flow chart that I gave you, the question that you ask yourself is, do you have one fraction on each side? The ones we did yesterday, you did not have one fraction on each side. So you had to find the common denominator, you had to change all the tops, you had to cross off all the bottoms. It was a process. This one though, you've got one fraction on each side. So all we have to do when you get the question that has one fraction on each side, all you have to do is cross multiply. That's it. So we're going to go 12 times x, 9 times x, 9 times 15. We're going to minus 9x from both sides. And we're going to divide both sides by 3. 45, I think. Is it 45? Okay. And it's in speed per hour. Okay. So here's the thing. That algebra, where was it? Is way easier than that algebra. I don't know what algebra you're going to get. All we can do is practice the algebra that we've learned and hope, crossing all the necessary body parts, that you get the easiest algebra on there. But we have to practice the hard because I don't know what they're going to do to you. I know you're getting a rationals equation that you have to solve, or a rationals add subtract, or a rationals multiply divide. Like, I know you're going to get a rationals. I would bet dollars that you're going to get an exponents and logs. You're going to get those too. I just don't know the level of difficulty that you're going to get with those two. That's the problem in all this. Well, there's lots of problems in all this, but that's one of them. Okay. All right. Let's do number 8, and then we'll finish it up. Thank you. Last one. So we've done 2, 4, 6, and 8, I think. Tomorrow we'll do 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Like we'll do, okay. And I think there's 10 on there, so we'll just do however many we get to. But I'm trying to separate it up over 2 days. A teacher kept data on her grade 12 math students over the course of a semester and determined that there was a relationship between the number of hours spent studying and a student's percentage in the class. Shocking. The relationship is given using the logarithmic equation. So logs. So you're instantly going, okay, I'm in the logs unit. Okay, I'm in the logs unit. Okay, what do I know about logs? Okay, you're instantly thinking like that. Y is the student's percent. X is the number of hours spent studying. A student spends 4.5 hours studying. What percent did they get? So X is hours. They spend 4.5 hours. So I'm just going to plug that in. Now notice there's no base with the log. What do you assume when there's no base with the log? You assume it's 10. So we're just going to use our log button. So we're going to go 96.3 log 4.5, finish off the bracket, plus 20.9. So their mark should be around 84%. So if they spent 4.5 hours studying, they should be at around an 84%. We did questions like this. I called it random log equations. We did one on a T-Rex. We did one with a hurricane. We did one with a stamp. Like we did all these. I just hucked random equations at you. We did a welding mask one. Like I just created stupid formulas and had you just throw numbers in there. Okay. To the nearest percent. So 84%. So again, just drag and drop a number. No algebra, just using your calculator. Okay. Part B. At the end of the semester, the teacher handed out the following review booklets. So 6 booklets for exponents and logs, 4 for probability, and 5 for rationals. Aren't you glad I didn't do that? Anywho. A student selects, a student selects, oh, there's that keyword again. So select is NCR. A student selects 3 exponents and logs, 2 probability, and 2 rationals to create a year-end review for themselves. How many different packages can they create? So exponents and logs, you've got 6, you're selecting 3. Probability, there's 4, you're selecting 2. Rationals, there's 5, and you're selecting 2. And you're picking exponents and logs and probability and rationals. So you're just going to plug that in and multiply. Now, in the interest of time, I'm trying to get you out of here. I'm not going to go through the button push of that. I'm assuming you remember how. We just did it on the last question. Okay, it's under Math Prob number 3. Okay. Now, one thing to note, if the question has the word determine, okay, determine is the diploma's way of saying show your work. So you would have to show this and the answer. So determine means show your work. There's determine and determine algebraically. This is not algebra, right? This is just formulas. So that's why it would say just determine, whereas the other questions we've done, it says determine algebraically because there's steps involved. Okay. Okay, part C. One of the questions in the exponents and logs booklet was to write the following as a single log. Determine the expression. Okay, so we did a few of these yesterday, or not yesterday, Monday. So the first thing you have to do is use the power rule. So it has to come first. So what I mean by that is that if you've got a number in front, you have to shift it back. So if you've got a number in front, you've got to shift it back to the power position. So you've got log R4 cubed, not 4 times 3, 4 to the power of 3, minus log R2 plus log RW5 plus log RW7. So it's called the power rule because the number goes back to the power position. Second thing, This is what we talked about on Monday. If there's a plus in front of it, it goes in the top. If there's a minus in front, it goes in the bottom. So we're going to write log R, and then we're going to put a bracket. The first thing that you see always goes on the top. Always. Now the next one has a minus in front, so this is going to go on the bottom. This one has a plus in front, so the W5 goes on top. This one has a plus in front, so the W7 goes on top. So the first thing always goes on the top, minuses go to the bottom, pluses go to the top. And then the third thing you're going to use exponent laws to simplify. So you've got log R, log R. Okay, use your calculator for this. Punch into your calculator 4 to the power of 3 divided by 2. I think that's 32. And then W5 with W7, you're going to add those exponents because you're multiplying, right? Remember, if you're multiplying, you add. If you're dividing, you subtract. So there's your W12. So this was algebra. Okay, not the worst algebra we've done, but algebra nonetheless. So that question would probably be worth 2 marks, okay, depending on how far you got. Okay, part D. In the rationals booklet. Okay, we're in the rationals unit now. This is a multiply question. So, for multiplying, the first thing you check for is factoring. So this is what we did yesterday, guys. So x squared minus 49, that is difference of squares. So x minus 7, x plus 7. 7x plus x squared, that is greatest common factor. So they each have an x, so I can take that out. So I'm left with 7 plus x times 7x squared plus 7x. That's a greatest common factor again. They each have a 7. They each have an x. So I'm left with x plus 1. At the bottom, there is nothing to do with that. So I'm left with x plus 1. Now remember, the whole goal of multiplying and dividing is to get your brackets to go away. So after you have factored, if nothing looks the same, you have screwed up. So multiplying and dividing, you're trying to get everything to go away. Adding and subtracting never cancel off. So multiply, divide, you always cancel off. Add, subtract, you never cancel off. Okay, before we start canceling off, do your restrictions. So restrictions are anything in the bottom. So our restrictions are monomial x, so automatically 0, 7 plus negative 7, -1 plus 1. Okay. We can cross off the x plus 1s. What else can we cross off? Let me ask you this. Is 2 plus 3 the same as 3 plus 2? Yes. So those are the same. They are not opposites. Opposites, remember, is like a positive x with a -7 and then a positive 7 with a negative x. Those are opposites. You can cross off opposites, but what do you have to put in? A -1. Those are not opposites. They're the same thing, so I can just cross them off. So what I've got here is a 7x and an x minus 7. Here I've got an x. Now, last thing, those are monomials. If you end up with any monomials, take them down as well. The x's cross off, so you're just left with that. Now, if you stopped here, you're going to get 1.5 out of 2. Not 0. You're going to get 1.5 out of 2. If you take it all the way down, 2 out of 2. Okay? Okay, so tomorrow I'll do another 4 or 5 questions. Okay, I don't know if I'll get through all 10. I know there's a bunch of you tomorrow writing the social. Okay, so I will record tomorrow and I will post the video on stream. So I'll post it right at the top of Google Classroom. So you don't have to go into the classwork tab, you just go right into stream and it will be the first video that you see. So that way tomorrow, again, now what you could do for studying, this is me